Welcome to Matters Financial, Geopolitical from the Frontier, and thank you for taking the time to stop by. I participated in an interview yesterday with CNBC Africa about the East African markets. That link is on Rich Wrap-Ups and on the front page of the website. I like this quote that I found via Fast Company: "Stay hungry, stay foolish, Steve Jobs." And then this: "Oh my God, what if you wake up someday and you're 65 or 75 and you never got your memoir or novel written, or you didn't go swimming in warm pools and oceans all those years ago because your thighs were jiggly and you had a nice big comfortable tummy, or you were just so strung out on perfectionism and people pleasing that you forgot to have a big, juicy, creative life of imagination and radical silliness and staring off into space like when you were a kid. It's going to break your heart. Don't let this happen." And then another quote from that same article: "Find a way or make one," by Hannibal. I'm looking forward to participating this evening at the Tweet for Elephants event at Bob Godek's residence. He's the US ambassador. Dr. Paula Kahumbu will be in the house, a friend and a conservationist. And she tweeted this morning, "Amazing elephants can recognize different African languages, and you thought you were smart. Elephants live in families, babies suckle 5 years, and daughters stay with mums for life. Boys go on walkabout for 9 years. On that note, I'll put up a photograph of the elephants crossing the Owasso Nyiro River in the Samburu. I want to get up there on a full moon. I told Hannah, I said, "Hannah, let's get up there when there's a full moon, because you'll just see the whole expanse at night, that silvery light." Elephants on the 1st of September 2013 in the Amboseli. Just look at the backside on this elephant closest to the photographer, which is me. If you've never seen this documentary about the Kilimanjaro elephants, do take a look. It's just remarkable. They mourn their dead. It's just so powerful. I'll put up a photograph of a bull elephant that blocked our way in the Gari Dari forest, and it was enormous. I think I captured some of that enormity in that photograph, and so close. Put up another photograph of elephants in the Masai Mara and a video link to about 90 seconds of footage, because we suddenly came over and we realized we were being surrounded by more than 100 elephants, and I took a bit of a video. And let's not forget the rhinos, of course. And I put up a photograph of 2 male rhinos that I took in Lebanon. Cristiano Ronaldo won the 3rd Ballon d'Or, and he tweeted this photograph earlier in the day: "On my way to Ballon d'Or 2014, and it's a very funky photograph. The police, according to Yahoo in Paris, are saying up to 6 Paris terror suspects may still be at large, including a man who was seen driving a car registered to the widow of one of the gunmen," police officials said Monday. Newsweek tweeted the front cover of the latest Charlie Hebdo magazine, and it's Prophet Muhammad holding a placard that says "Je suis Charlie." And I was thinking to myself, first of all, the radical Islamists assume that God does not have a sense of humor. And I think Charlie Hebdo assume that he doesn't have one either, because they just keep cracking the same joke. Borzu seems world leaders didn't lead. Borzu, somebody I follow on Twitter, seems world leaders didn't lead Charlie Hebdo marches in Paris, but conducted a photo op on an empty, guarded street. And what was interesting, actually, was the very uniformity around the support for this event. And then it started to fragment and fracture on social media, and a lot of people had issues with the likes of Ali Bongo marching for press freedom, amongst others. I think, and I suppose, President Obama not turning up shows you what complexities there were around this situation. My piece over the weekend, which I read to you yesterday, The Year of G2 as Europe Off Balance, I was talking about the attack, the Bonnie and Clyde show on the streets of Paris. We all understand the language of the media. The Kouachi brothers and Ahmedi Koulibaly and his crossbow-toting partner Hayat Boumeddienne was so proficient at taking over the world's attention that Boko Haram's single biggest massacre and several female suicide bombers, including a 10-year-old, did not even rate a mention. In fact, President Jonathan saw fit to send condolences to France, but failed to mention events at home entirely. The arrival of the asymmetric threat on the streets of Paris was deeply unsettling, and I think will keep Europe off balance and presages a new normal. According to The Independent, the Kouachi brothers' children were abandoned by their Algerian-born parents and brought up in a children's home in Brittany. I was then talking about Europe, the economic blowback, and how I think it's close to a major death spiral of the Japanese variety. Oil, I was saying the oil warfare specialist President Obama has successfully wrestled crude below $50 a barrel, and with that effected a chokehold on Putin. Venezuela and others as far afield as Nigeria and Angola. And I was saying it was going to be the year of G2, the big winners are the US and China. Last year, the US created the most jobs since 1999. Lower oil prices are a tailwind worth $1 trillion. And I said it's the comeback kid of 2015. Jerusalem Post has issued a video of CCTV footage capturing Boumeddienne and an accomplice as she entered Istanbul airport. I'll put up the photograph. And it's quite interesting is the female component of Boko Haram, and here at Westgate, I made a lot of assumptions, but I think the White Widow was involved to some degree. Afghan president names a cabinet 3 months after taking power. Well, that's a good sign. Key US military command's Twitter handle CENTCOM and YouTube sites were hacked by ISIS supporters yesterday in an embarrassing propaganda attack. Setback for the US military, a black and white banner with words Cyber Caliphate and I Love You ISIS replaced Central Command's usual logo on Twitter and YouTube before the pages were suspended. President Obama was delivering a speech about cybersecurity at that very time. Look, it's a soft target, but it became a valuable one in the attack. Xinjiang unrest, police shoot 6 dead. I call this the soft underbelly of China. They banned the burqa in the bigger city in Xinjiang as well. Interesting piece on Forbes about the New World Disorder. If the first few days of 2015 are any indication, this year's headlines will be dominated by global turmoil, from terrorism and cyber attacks to upheaval in Iraq, Ukraine, the South China Sea and beyond. This is the new normal, a reflection of a global system buffeted by countervailing forces. I wrote about this in August 2014 when I said picking up the signal through the noise of our world in 2014 is no easy thing. In fact, my view is the new normal is a very arrhythmic world. Currencies, euro just shy of 118.50, a little bit of a trading bounce going on here, dollar index 92.08. Japanese yen strengthened to 117 handle, back at 118.25, Swissy 101.43, pound 151.70, Aussie 0.8180, India rupee 62.095, the won 1080.15, that's not a good bounce. Rial 267.35, Egyptian pound official rate 7.15.06, and the rand at 11.50.54. The yen has rallied 3.9% in the past month and is the best performer of 10 developed nation currencies tracked by Bloomberg. Dollars up 3.8%, euros down 2%. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index. My target is 100. And I'll put up a 3-month chart of the euro dollar. My target is 1. Gold is at 12-week highs. I'll put up a 6-month chart. This has caught me off balance. I didn't expect it to rally so high, but I don't see it holding in the face of a much stronger dollar. Crude oil, I'll put up a 5-day chart, $45.97 last. This is the March contract. $40 is now a shoo-in. I said in my article over the weekend it could average $50 a barrel for the next 24 months. There is no Hail Mary pass coming. I like this quote from someone talking about oil on Reuters. If no one blinks, then prices will continue to drop. I'll put up a 3-month chart as well, and a photograph of the Sheba oil field complex as seen at night in the Rub al Khali desert in Saudi Arabia. M.K. Badrakumar, who I enjoy reading, has written an interesting piece about the Sri Lankan transition, and he says it resets Indian Ocean politics. The defeat of the incumbent Rajapaksa on Thursday was neither completely unexpected nor was it inevitable, as the narrow victory of his opponent, Sirena, testifies, but its significance is nonetheless far-reaching. What happened may not have the look of a classic regime change color revolution, as in Georgia, or a coup as in Ukraine, because the transition adhered to democratic principles, but without doubt outside powers had got involved discreetly, without being visible, and choreographed the rebound of party politics in Sri Lanka. It's a very interesting detail, basically saying that it was an Anglo-Saxon enterprise, Badrakumar saying, and talking about how it was achieved. It was very late in the day, very clever, subtle. He had dinner one day and then he was standing against him the next. It was an article I saw in the Independent. For the United States, Sri Lanka figures as a potential linchpin in its rebalance strategy in Asia. For Britain, its return to the east of Suez demands reclaiming the mentorship of the political elites in Colombo. For China, it is a vital hub in its maritime Silk Road strategy, while for India, the island falls within what it regards as a sphere of influence. So clearly, an interesting development and inflection point. I like this photograph from Reuters via The Guardian. Boys tie up their boats on a cold evening as fog covers the banks of the Yamuna River. Coming to sub-Saharan Africa, I came across an interview of President Jammeh. And if you jump in this interview to 10 minutes and 47 seconds, you can hear his thoughts about Ebola. It's quite interesting. Mozambique swore in new lawmakers today, that was yesterday, during a ceremony boycotted by the main opposition party, which disputes the outcome of the October election and has threatened to declare a breakaway republic. President Armando Guebuza opened the new parliament, includes 144 deputies from his ruling Front for the Liberation of Mozambique, or Frelimo, and 89 from the opposition Renamo. Dhlakama, who you remember was in the bush most of last year, head of Renamo, said at a weekend rally in the port city of Beira that he would declare an autonomous republic comprising provinces where the party claims more support than Frelimo. Provinces of Sofala, Zambezia, Nampula, Manica, Tet, and Niassa. Guebuza led the lawmakers in a moment's silence to mark the death of at least 69 people in Tet province who drank poisoned home-brewed beer at a funeral. Guebuza will be replaced as head of state on Jan 15 by Filipe Nyusi. Clearly, the situation is suboptimal and has risks of getting worse, but so far stayed below the radar to a degree. I wrote last year about how Mozambique could be the next Qatar, which it could, and I'll put up a photograph of Maputo taken from the sea, and a photograph of Dhlakama himself. Lawmakers in the DRC, Congo, postponed a vote that would have allowed the government to conduct the first census in about 40 years. after politicians clashed inside the National Assembly. Police fired tear gas into a crowd of protesters outside the National Assembly. Inside, opposition politicians disrupted proceedings, according to state television. I'll put up a few. Under the Constitution, President Kabila will not be able to stand in the 2016 ballot. Critics say the government planned to insist on a census ahead of any vote that might enable him to prolong his stay in office. Interesting tweets about Kinshasa. One was hope for Congo. I'll put up a photograph, a normal day for the opposition in Kabila's regime. The second one was from Christia Malanga, which is a bit more extreme. The regime in Kinshasa is falling, he said. South African all shares minus 2.58% this year, fell 0.98% yesterday. Dollar rand 11.50.60. Egyptian pound official rate 7.15.24, unofficial rate 7.70 to 7.80. Egyptian stock market plus 2.08% in 2015. Bounced 2.24% yesterday. Nigerian all share, it's had a torrid time, down 12.76% year to date. Nigeria says the toll didn't exceed 150 in the latest attacks. Said no more than 150 were killed by Islamist militants last week. Initial evidence, including aerial surveillance, has disproved claims that as many as 2,000 died. This is the nation's defense headquarters issuing a statement on its website. Terrible atrocities have been committed against innocent Nigerians in Baga, according to the statement. The military has not given up on Baga or any part of the country where terrorists are marauding. No portion of Nigeria's territory has been or will be conceded to terrorists. Ban said he was appalled by the reports and that violence in Nigeria is at the top of his agenda after 10 days of attacks. Amnesty was talking about 2,000 deaths. Over the weekend I wrote, that President Jonathan saw fit to send condolences to France, but failed to mention events at home entirely. Put up a photograph of him, and naturally Bloomberg is talking about how this Nigerian vote chaos looms as massacres highlight Islamist threat. Ghana Stock Exchange is negative 0.04% this year. I like this photograph of playing pool at a restaurant in Manono, Katanga, Congo, that MSF Congo tweeted. Ethiopia's buoyant economy raises Heineken's hopes for beer market growth. Ethiopia's average annual beer consumption is 5 litres per capita, about half the average level for sub-Saharan Africa, excluding South Africa. Heineken, a big part of the Africa strategy is around Ethiopia. Coming to Kenya, a research note released by Standard Chartered last month indicated that in spite of Kenya discovering crude oil, it can only produce it at a profit if the price of a barrel is set at a minimum of $70. It is not yet certain how much a lower oil price will impact on oil exploration activity in Kenya. According to industry estimates, an oil price of at least $70 per barrel might be needed for Kenyan oil to be viable, said the bank. I wrote about this on the 17th of November when I said dwindling oil fortunes not good for Kenya. My concern at the moment is this: we are necessarily placing a big bet on oil and gas, cementing our position as the pivot, the energy conduit and route to the sea. And then, that was on the 17th of November, I said, go and look at the price of oil. From above $100, it had gone to below 80, and I was saying there is an outside chance we can break down to below $50 a barrel. We're there now, and I was referring to Tullow Oil and Africa Oil, and I said that both exploration companies, they find the oil and then they go and typically find a big major with deep pockets to exploit the oil. It is imperative that we see the majors step in, otherwise the can will get kicked down the road. I said the consequential effects on our economy of the can being kicked down the road are not good at all. Our policymakers need to react real quick to the new normal. The right signal at this point in time would be to slash the proposed capital gains tax. It is always better to tax something rather than nothing. Kenya shilling at 91.25. Nairobi all share negative 0.52% year to date. NSE 20 plus 0.18%. 2015, and that's outperforming the all share this year. The NSE has been relatively well behaved when you compare it to Nigeria or places like that. Big headline events this week here are the MPC, where I expect no change, and even expect a rate cut at some point in 2015. And the ERC, who will reset fuel prices this week and have been making some extraordinary statements in the Star about how they don't import crude oil, they import shale oil from Australia. Well, it's all priced the same. And if it's refined, it's as price plus the refining cost. And that makes me worried that they're not going to get cut by how much they should be cutting. It's badly lagged the oil price. Agricultural sector was a big outperformer yesterday. Williamson Tea leapt 10%, Captoria Tea up 8.69%, EGAD's up 5.29%. The point was they performed very strongly last year as well. It was an outlier. And it was all around Rea Vipinga, the takeover fight, and everyone understanding, look, the share prices are trading at huge discounts to the net asset value. Safaricom bounced 0.727% to close at 13.85. Was trading at 14 at the finish. There were 12 buyers for every seller at the finish line, incredibly enough, telling us that it's poised now to retarget 15, its all-time high from the 9th of December. KCB up 0.892% to close at 56.50. It was trading 57 at the closing bell. Standard Chartered was firm as well. NIC Bank, which got a little bit of a pop last week, unchanged. Mumia Sugar up 21% before this morning and up another 10% today. Strong rebound, supportive comments from Cabinet Secretary Rotage helping out. There were 4,000% more buyers yesterday. Big trading going on today. EABL eased 1.29%. Volumes dried up a little bit, and I think that's all around the capital gains tax situation. Once that beds down, and how it beds down is important, we should see the market actually be quite supported. Thank you.